Red and blue lights exploded in the rearview mirror. Steven Seagal glanced up calmly, eased his foot off the accelerator, and pulled the black SUV to the side of the road without hesitation. No sudden moves, no argument. Just silence. Behind him, a police cruiser screeched to a stop. The officer stepped out fast. "And she shouted. "Hands where I can't see them." Steven slowly placed both hands on the steering wheel. The highway was nearly empty, but a gas station across the road had a few people watching. Phones came out. Someone started recording. The officer approached carefully, eyes locked on the vehicle. "Step out of the car." Now Steven opened the door and stepped onto the asphalt. Calm and controlled, no fear in his eyes. She looked him up and down. "Jeans, dark jacket, quiet confidence. You know why I stopped you?" "No," Steven replied evenly. She snapped her flashlight on the dashboard, then at the license plate. "So unless she was flagged as stolen 10 minutes ago," she said sharply. "So unless we got a good explanation, this is going to get ugly." Steven blinked once. "This car belongs to—" "Save it," she cut him off. "Everyone says that." She reached for her radio. "Dispatch. Confirmed stolen vehicle. Black SUV, highway marquee 47. Static crackled. The Alpade's jaw tightened. "You real lucky I need to draw my weapon." "She are lucky. People like you usually run." Steven didn't respond. The silence irritated her. "You think this is funny?" she snapped. "A stolen vehicle is a felony." "I understand," Steven said calmly. "But shouting when he fixed the air, you don't tell me how to do my job," she barked. She stepped closer. "Turn around. Hands behind your back." The cuffs snapped shut. "Tight," a murmur rose from the onlookers. "Is that Steven Seagal?" Steven said nothing. The officer leaned in and said quietly, "Cold Libin. People like you always think they were special." She had no idea that in a few seconds a badge would flip the entire situation above bed. The night air felt heavier once the handcuffs clicked shut. Steven Seagal stood still on the side of the road, the cold metal biting into his wrists. The flashing red and blue lights painted his face in sharp colors, but his expression didn't change. He wasn't angry. He wasn't scared. He was observant. Officer Reynolds, however, was anything but calm. She circled him slowly, boots crunching against gravel, flashlight sweeping over his jacket, his hands, his calm posture. Calm like this made her uneasy. Most suspects argued, some begged, others panicked. This man did none of that. "You're very relaxed for someone caught in a stolen vehicle," she said sharply. Steven met her eyes. "Because I know this will be resolved." That sentence irritated her more than resistance ever could. Resolved. She scoffed and turned away, speaking into her radio again. "Dispatch, I need confirmation." VIN check came back inconsistent. Driver claims ownership. The radio hissed with static. No immediate reply. Her grip tightened around the mic. Behind them, the small crowd near the gas station grew. A trucker leaned against his rig. Two teenagers whispered while recording. A middle-aged woman shook her head. Officer Reynolds noticed. "Phones down," she shouted. "This is an active police stop?" No one listened. She turned back to Steven. "You enjoying the attention?" "Attention doesn't interest me," he replied quietly. That tone, respectful, steady, only made her more defensive. "You know," she said, lowering her voice. "I've been doing this job long enough to recognize types, fake confidence, fake calm. You think staying quiet makes you look innocent." Steven didn't respond. She stepped closer. "Where did you really get the car?" "I didn't steal it," Steven said. "And escalating this won't help either of us." "That did it." Her eyes hardened. "You don't get to lecture me on the side of the road." She turned him slightly, patting him down quickly but roughly. "Wallet, phone, keys." She opened the wallet and paused. The ID didn't match what she expected. Not fake. Not suspicious. Just unusual. She flipped it once more, then snapped it shut. "Nice try," she muttered. "Anyone can carry props." Steven finally spoke again. "That's not a prop." She ignored him and walked back to her cruiser, frustration building with every step. Inside the car, she ran the information again. Still no clean hit, still no confirmation. Her jaw clenched. Why won't this system update? She glanced in the mirror at Steven standing quietly under the flashing lights, calm, grounded. Like he knew something she didn't. That thought bothered her. She got out again. "Here's what's going to happen," she said firmly. Until I get confirmation, you're detained. If this car comes back stolen, you're going downtown. Stephen nodded slightly. That's your right. That answer stopped her. Most people fought detention. He accepted it. Why aren't you upset? She asked suddenly. Stephen looked at the highway, then back at her. Because anger doesn't change facts. A long pause followed. For a brief moment, doubt flickered across her face. Then her radio crackled. Not dispatch, another officer. Reynolds. You good over there? Yes, she snapped, handling a stolen vehicle suspect. Copy. The word suspect echoed in her head. She squared her shoulders as if convincing herself she was right. I'm putting you in the back of the cruiser, she said. Stephen didn't resist. As she guided him toward the car, one of the onlookers called out, Hey, isn't that Steven Seagal? She froze. What? Another voice followed. Yeah, man, looks just like him. Officer Reynolds turned sharply toward Stephen. That your idea of distraction? She asked. Stephen met her eyes. I didn't say anything. She stared at him for a long second, then shook her head. Celebrities don't drive around alone at night, she muttered. Nice try. She opened the cruiser door. Right before stepping in, Stephen spoke calmly. Not loud, not threatening. Officer, you might want to check your radio again. She paused, slowly turned back. What did you say? Check your radio, he repeated. There's a call coming you shouldn't ignore. Her hand hovered over the door. Then, the radio crackled again. This time, the voice sounded different. More serious, more urgent. Officer Reynolds straightened instinctively. Reynolds, the voice said, stand by. Her heart skipped. She looked at Stephen again. Really looked at him this time. The calm, the certainty, the silence. And for the first time since the stop began, she wondered if she had made a very serious mistake. 2Z, the radio hissed again. Officer Reynolds, stand by. Her grip tightened on the cruiser door. That tone wasn't routine, it carried weight. The kind that made officers straighten their backs without realizing it. She glanced at Steven Seagal. He stood quietly beside the road, hands cuffed, eyes steady. No smirk, no fear. Just patience. Stand by for what? She replied into the radio. A pause followed static. Then silence. The crowd across the road leaned in closer. Cameras stayed raised. Whispers spread like sparks. Officer Reynolds exhaled sharply. Greet, she muttered. Dead air. She turned back to Stephen. Nice timing, she said. Trying to shake my confidence. Stephen shook his head slowly. I'm trying to save you from embarrassment. Her jaw clenched. That's enough, she snapped. You're going in the car. She opened the cruiser door again. At that exact moment, her radio crackled. Louder this time. Reynolds, do not place the individual in your vehicle. Her heart dropped. She froze mid. Motions, say again, she said. The voice repeated, slower, now clearer. Do not place him in the vehicle. A chill ran up her spine. She turned her body slightly away from Stephen, shielding the mic. Dispatch, identify the individual, she demanded. Another pause. Then, Officer Reynolds, that subject is flagged as federal priority clearance. Her breath caught. Federal? What? She looked at Stephen again. For the first time, doubt punched through her certainty. She lowered her voice. Sir, why is your name triggering federal clearance? Stephen met her gaze calmly. Because the system you're using doesn't have full access. That answer landed heavy. She stepped back, confusion flashing across her face. Are you threatening me? She asked. No, Stephen replied. I'm warning you. The crowd noticed the shift. People stopped whispering. Phones zoomed in closer. Officer Reynolds pressed the radio again. Dispatch, I need details now. The response came instantly this time. Reynolds, Homeland Security has eyes on this stop. Her knees nearly buckled. Homeland Security, she repeated. Yes, the voice said. You are to release the individual immediately unless further instructed. Silence swallowed the highway. Officer Reynolds lowered the radio slowly. Her heartbeat thundered in her ears. She looked at Steven Seagal, really looked this time. Not as a suspect, as someone important. "Sir," she began, voice suddenly unsure. "Are you?" Federal Steven nodded slightly. "I carry authorization," he said. "Not for show, for situations exactly like this." She swallowed hard. "I didn't see. The system is limited." Steven finished for her. "That's intentional." Her hands trembled as she reached for the cuffs, then stopped. "Permission?" she asked quietly. Steven nodded once. She unlocked the cuffs. The metal fell away. The sound echoed louder than the sirens. Zone of the onlookers gasped. Steven rolled his wrists calmly, showing no sign of anger. "I followed procedure," she said quickly, almost offensively. "The vehicle alert was outdated," Steven replied. "This car was reassigned under federal clearance earlier today." Her face flushed red. "I accused you of theft," she whispered. "You did," Steven said. "Publicly." She winced. Then, slowly, Steven reached inside his jacket. Her instincts kicked in instantly. "Sir," she warned. Steven stopped. "Relax," he said calmly. He removed a leather holder and opened it. Inside, a badge. Not police. Not military. Homeland Security. The crowd erupted. "No way. That's real. Did you see that?" Officer Reynolds stared at the badge, frozen. Her mouth opened, then closed. I didn't know," she said softly. Steven closed the badge. "That's the point," he said. "Authority should never replace respect." The radio crackled one last time. "Reynolds, stand down, you're clear." She stepped back, stunned. The situation had flipped completely. Moments ago, she held the power. Now she realized. She had almost crossed a line she couldn't undo. Steven looked at the flashing lights, then back at her. "This stop will be reviewed," he said calmly. "Not to punish, but to teach." Her eyes filled with shame. "Yes, sir," she replied quietly. The sirens shut off. The highway returned to darkness. But Officer Reynolds knew one thing for certain. This wasn't over, and what came next would change her career forever. The sirens went silent. One by one, the flashing red and blue lights shut off, plunging the highway back into darkness. What had moments ago felt like a public spectacle now felt strangely exposed, like everyone could suddenly hear their own thoughts. Steven Seagal adjusted his jacket calmly. Officer Reynolds stood frozen, the radio still in her hand, her pulse racing. Her authority, the confidence she had carried so easily just minutes earlier, now felt fragile. Across the road, the onlookers erupted. "Did you see that badge?" That was Homeland Security. She had him in cuffs. Phones stayed raised. The recordings didn't stop. Officer Reynolds turned toward the crowd. "This stop is over. Please clear the area." No one moved. She swallowed hard. Steven glanced at the people watching. "It's fine," he said quietly. "Let them see." That single sentence cut deeper than any lecture. She looked at him, startled. "You're okay with this?" she asked. "Transparency matters," Steven replied, "especially when power is involved." Her shoulders sagged slightly. She took a breath and spoke into her radio. "Dispatch. Scene is under control." "Copy," came the reply. "Stand by for supervisory review." The words hit her like a punch. Supervisory review. She had done her job, or at least she thought she had. But now doubt gnawed at her. Had she crossed the line? Had her tone, her assumptions, her force turned a routine stop into something dangerous? Steven watched her carefully. "You followed protocol," he said, "but protocol without judgment can still cause harm." She nodded slowly. "I let my assumptions lead." "Yes," he replied, "and that happens more often than people admit." For the first time she met his eyes without defensiveness. "I'm sorry," she said quietly. "Not because of the badge, because of how I treated you." Steven held her gaze, then nodded once. "That matters." The crowd grew quieter. Even the teenagers stopped whispering. Steven turned toward his vehicle. The SUV still sat exactly where he had left it, calm, untouched, as if nothing had happened. Officer Reynolds followed him. uncertain. "Sir, what happens now?" "That depends," Stephen said. "On what you choose to learn from this." She hesitated. "And the review?" "There will be one," he said honestly. "But it won't be what you think." She exhaled, bracing herself. A second cruiser pulled up behind hers. A senior officer stepped out, older, slower, eyes sharp with experience. He glanced at Stephen, then at Officer Reynolds. "Evening," he said carefully. Stephen nodded. "Evening, Captain." The captain's posture changed instantly. "Sir," he said respectfully. Officer Reynolds noticed. That reaction confirmed everything. The captain turned to her. "Walk with me." They stepped a few feet away. "What happened?" he asked quietly. I believe the vehicle alert," she said. "I escalated." The captain sighed. "And how did you speak to him?" She hesitated. "Honestly," he said, "I assumed," she admitted. "I treated him like a criminal before confirming facts." The captain nodded slowly. "That's the part we'll talk about." Her chest tightened. "Am I suspended?" "Not tonight," he said. "But this will be reviewed fully." She nodded, accepting it. They returned to Stephen. "Sir," the captain said, "we apologize for the inconvenience." Stephen inclined his head slightly. Apologies matter when they're sincere. The captain looked at Officer Reynolds. "Go secure your unit." "Yes, sir." She walked away, heart heavy. Stephen paused before getting into his SUV. He turned back to her. "Officer," he called. She stopped instantly. "Yes, sir." He walked a few steps closer, calm, controlled, unthreatening. "Don't let tonight harden you," he said. "Let it sharpen you." Her eyes stung. "I will," she replied. Stephen opened his door and got inside. The engine started smoothly. As the SUV pulled away, the crowd slowly dispersed, buzzing with disbelief. Officer Reynolds stood alone under the streetlight. The road was quiet again, but inside her mind, nothing was quiet. She replayed every word, every assumption, every moment she had chosen control over curiosity. She knew one thing for sure. This stop wouldn't just be written up in a report. It would follow her. And whether it broke her, or made her a better officer, that part was up to her. The next morning, the highway incident was already everywhere. Clips from shaky phones flooded social media, red and blue lights. Steven Seagal in handcuffs, the sudden shift in tone, the stunned silence when the badge appeared. Captions argued back and forth. Officer overreacts, man hides behind power. Respect should come first. Officer Reynolds watched the videos alone in her apartment. The glow of her laptop reflecting in tired eyes. Every replay made her stomach tighten. She wasn't angry at the public. She was angry at herself. Her phone buzzed. Department notice, mandatory review. She closed her eyes and exhaled. At headquarters, the air felt heavier than usual. Conversations hushed as she walked down the hallway, not judgment, curiosity. Everyone had seen the clip. She entered the review room. 3 senior officers sat at the table, a legal advisor, internal affairs. The captain from last night nodded at her to sit. "Officer Reynolds," one of them began, "this is not a disciplinary hearing, it's an assessment." She nodded, understood. They played the footage, every command, every assumption, every moment of escalation. She watched herself snap the cuffs on. "Pause," the captain said. The screen froze on Stephen's calm face. "Why did you escalate here?" he asked. She swallowed. "Because I assumed guilt before confirmation." "Why?" another officer asked. "Because the system flagged the car, and because I let ego replace patience." Silence followed. "That answer matters," the legal advisor said quietly. They continued the video until the badge appeared. "Did you know who he was?" someone asked. "No," she replied, "and that's not an excuse." The captain leaned forward. "Then why apologize only after seeing the badge?" Her chest tightened. "I didn't," she said. "I apologized for how I treated him, not who he was." The room stayed quiet. Finally, the captain spoke. This incident could have ended very differently. No laws were broken, but judgment was tested. She braced herself. "You will not be suspended," he continued. "But you will be reassigned temporarily, and you will attend advanced de-escalation training." Relief and shame mixed together. "Yes, sir," she said. "And one more thing," he added. "Mr. Seagal requested this outcome." Her head snapped up. "He did?" "Yes," the captain said. "He declined any formal complaint." She felt something crack inside her. "Why?" she asked quietly. The captain slid a folded paper across the table. "He left you this." She opened it slowly. A single sentence, handwritten. "Power reveals who we are. Pressure gives us a choice." Her eyes blurred. After the meeting, she stepped outside into the sunlight. The world felt louder, sharper, changed. Days later, she stood in a training room with other officers, watching scenarios play out. Traffic stops, confrontations, moments where one decision could tip everything. This time, she saw it clearly, not suspects. People weeks passed. The media moved on. Another story replaced hers, but she didn't forget. One evening, during a routine stop, a nervous driver fumbled with his wallet. Hands shaking, old instincts flared. She stopped herself. "Take your time," she said calmly. The man looked up surprised. "Thank you, officer," he whispered. She handed him a warning and sent him on his way. As his car disappeared, she felt something unfamiliar. Pride. Not the loud kind, the earned kind. Later that night, her radio crackled. "Reynolds, good work on that stop." She smiled faintly. Somewhere else, Steven Seagal watched the sunset from the balcony of a quiet building, city lights stretching below. He thought briefly about the highway, then let it go. Lessons only matter when they change something. He had seen change, and that was enough. Assignment felt different than punishment. Officer Reynolds now worked day shifts in a quieter district. Fewer sirens, fewer chases, more conversations. At first, it felt like being sidelined, like a silent reminder of her mistake. But over time, something unexpected happened. She started listening more. On her third day, she responded to a call about a disturbance at a grocery store. A man was shouting, frustrated, waving his arms. Employees looked nervous. Old instincts told her to command, control, dominate the situation. Instead, she paused. "Sir," she said calmly, keeping her distance. "What's going on?" The man blinked, surprised. "They overcharged me," he said, voice shaking. "I've been trying to explain." She listened, really listened. The issue was resolved in minutes. No cuffs, no raised voices, no crowd. As she walked back to her cruiser, she felt it again, that quiet pride. The kind that didn't need witnesses. That night, during training, an instructor spoke words that stuck with her. Authority is loud. Respect is quiet. And the quiet ones usually last longer. She wrote it down. Meanwhile, comment sections argued endlessly, some defending her, others condemning her. She didn't read them anymore. She didn't need strangers to define her. One afternoon, she received an unexpected message through official channels. Request for observation community program. Attached was a name, Steven Seagal. Her pulse spiked. The program involved officers observing conflict resolution workshops funded by a private security initiative. She wasn't required to attend, she volunteered anyway. The room was modest, no cameras, no press. Just officers, social workers, and community leaders. Steven stood at the front, not as a celebrity, not as an authority figure. Just a man speaking calmly. "I'm not here to tell you how to do your job," he said. "I'm here to talk about moments." He described moments when decisions are made in seconds. Moments that define careers, lives, and trust. Power doesn't test people when everything is calm, he continued. It tests them when they're tired, afraid, or convinced they're right. Officer Reynolds felt every word. After the session, she waited until most people left. "Sir," she said finally. Steven turned and recognized her immediately. "Officer Reynolds," she swallowed. "Thank you for not making me the lesson." He smiled faintly. "You became the lesson on your own." She nodded. "I almost let pride cost me my integrity." "Yes," he said, "but you stopped." "That night," she admitted, "I thought authority meant control." "And now," he asked, She didn't hesitate. Now I know it means responsibility. Stephen extended his hand. She shook it. Not as officer to civilian, but as two people who understood something important. Weeks later, her reassignment ended. She returned to her original district, not with applause, not with headlines, just quieter confidence. During a night shift, her partner asked, "Does it bother you, knowing one mistake can go viral?" She thought for a moment. "No," she said. "What bothers me is knowing how easy it is to forget someone's humanity." Her partner nodded slowly. Later that night, she pulled over a luxury sedan for a broken taillight. The driver looked nervous. She smiled gently. "Relax, just a warning." The driver exhaled in relief. "Thank you for treating me like a person." She watched the car disappear into the dark. And she understood something clearly now. The badge didn't give her power. It gave her responsibility. Far away, Steven Seagal read a short report sent to him quietly. Officer Reynolds. Performance improved. Community feedback positive. He closed the file. Not every lesson needs applause. Some just need change. And sometimes, the greatest proof of power is knowing when not to use it. Time has a quiet way of proving what truly matters. Weeks after the highway stop, the footage stopped circulating. New scandals replaced old ones. Algorithms moved on. Most people forgot the faces, the voices, the moment, not because of the backlash, but because of the lesson hidden inside that sound. The reminder that power, when used without patience, can become something dangerous. She carried that awareness into every shift. She spoke slower. She listened longer. She judged less. And the difference showed. Complaints disappeared. Community feedback improved. Tension dissolved before it had a chance to ignite. One evening, while filing reports at the station, a younger officer approached her. "Hey," he said, hesitant. "Can I ask you something?" She looked up. "Sure. How do you stay calm, even when someone's being difficult?" She thought for a moment. "Because control isn't about force," she said. "It's about confidence." He nodded, taking it in. That was when she realized something powerful. The mistake that nearly defined her had quietly transformed her into an example. Not because of punishment, but because of accountability. Across the city, Steven Seagal walked through a small community center without cameras or attention. He spoke to teenagers about discipline, restraint, and self-respect. Values older than any badge or title. A boy raised his hand. "Sir," he asked, "what do you do when someone disrespects you?" Steven smiled gently. "You decide who you want to be after the moment passes," he said. Revenge feels powerful for seconds. Character lasts forever. The room fell silent. Later that night, Steven sat alone, reflecting briefly on the highway incident. He didn't feel anger. He didn't feel pride. He felt resolution. Because the situation had ended the right way. Not with humiliation, not with punishment, but with growth. And growth is rare. Back on patrol, Officer Reynolds responded to a late-night call involving a loud argument in a parking lot. Two men stood face to face, fists clenched. She stepped between them calmly. "Take a breath," she said. "Both of you." They hesitated, then obeyed. Within minutes, the tension dissolved. As she drove away, she realized something had changed forever. She no longer saw herself as someone who enforced the law. She saw herself as someone who protected peace. And that distinction mattered, because power isn't proven when everyone agrees with you. It's proven when you could escalate and choose not to. The world doesn't need louder authority. It needs quieter wisdom. It needs people who understand that respect isn't demanded, it's demonstrated, and that sometimes the strongest move is restraint. So if this story taught you anything, let it be this. Treat people with dignity before you know who they are. Because titles fade. Badges come off. Money changes hands. But character stays. Comment below. Do you believe power should always come with humility? Type respect if you agree. And tell us where you're watching from. Because stories like this remind us that no matter where we come from, humanity is universal. Faye.